Trying to pick your favorites or the most exciting is sort of like trying to choose among your children. Apart from the music itself, I have to say that, well, maybe the music is an important part of it, but our two trips to Rock Island certainly come to mind as being absolutely unforgettable. And I guess in terms of programs, the first one that we played there, those of you who haven't been to Rock Island and been to the boathouse, above the boathouse, which goes down in the water where the boats come in, there's a hall above it. I think it's called the Viking Hall, and it was intended to resemble a Viking hall. It's created in that style, and it has a vaulted ceiling and just a long rectangular room with windows on either side. And at the end where you come in, there's an enormous, what I call walk-in fireplace. Beautiful stone fireplace. So you come in the building behind the fireplace, and then you come around the fireplace into the main part of the room. So the opening of the fireplace faces into the room. And above the fireplace and above the entrance is a balcony that once you're in the room and look back toward the fireplace, you see the balcony up there on either side of the fireplace chimney. Well, I got the idea that when we performed there for the first time, especially once I realized the acoustics in there, that we would play a little surprise on the audience. So we had the musicians come out for the first piece to applause, and they bowed, and then they sat down like they were about to play, except they didn't play. Instead, the audience started hearing this ethereal music coming from they didn't know where. Well, it happened that my wife, Jean, our flutist, who didn't play on that first piece, was up in that balcony next to the fireplace, and she had come out and was standing right next to the edge of the balcony up above the musicians. And she played Debussy's solo piece for flute called Syrinx, which is only a few minutes long, but it's just hauntingly beautiful. As I said, ethereal sounding, especially in this acoustics. And the audience couldn't figure out what was happening because they were looking at these musicians, expecting them to play. And they started hearing music, and they were looking, you could see them looking from one side to the other at the musicians. Who's playing that, And little by little, they realized that it was Jean up above them, quite a ways up above them, playing this. But they were all mesmerized. And to this day, that was probably 20 years ago that we did this. To this day, I still have people coming up and telling me how magical that moment was, that it just stayed with them, and it stayed with me too, obviously, as that's got to be the unique performance situation of all time for us, I think. The rest of the concert was fantastic too. One of the frustrating things is that boathouse, Viking Hall, may be the best acoustics in Door County, and it's also the most difficult place possible to get to because you can only do it via Charlie Voigt's Island Clipper, and it's a logistical nightmare to create a concert there. So that's why we've only done it twice. But I could go through a list of so many programs I know the audience has found moving, that I've found moving. One of the things that surprises me is that sometimes I find people very moved by things that I would not expect. And I go to almost all of the concerts. I go to well, for instance, this past summer, we did 38 performances, and I was at 36 of them. And I do that for a number of reasons. One, I want to hear the music, but I want to hear it in the different venues because it's always different, each place, partly because of the change of acoustics, but partly because every night is just a different experience. But also, I want to get a sense of how the audience is responding to this. And frequently people will come up and talk to me and tell me what they thought, and especially what they really liked. And I could see their reaction, obviously the way they applaud or if they give a standing ovation, but I see the little more subtle things, like a couple sitting next to me where in the middle of the slow movement, one of them puts their hand over on the top of the other one and they look at each other and smile. And that just makes it all worthwhile because I know what that feels like.